All right, we're going to go ahead and jump in. We've only got a half hour with you today, but we're super excited about it. Good to see you. This is a webinar all about leadership and really thinking about new leadership. We've heard that there is a lot of turnover in the Head Start world in all staff positions, leadership not excluded from that. And we kind of set this up so that you could be one of two kinds of people and get something out of this. The first thing is you could be a new leader yourself. New could be this year, but new in Head Start might also be the last couple of years. It takes a long time to get rooted in Head Start, so you might be newer. The other thing is you might be an experienced leader who has new leadership starting in your organization. And so we wanted to kind of speak to both of those things today. And because this is a half an hour, this is a little bit of a booster kind of webinar. We're going to go through things at a really high level. But part of why we're here is to let you know there's lots of opportunities here at the Academy at NHSA to tap into leadership training. And we want to make sure that you're aware of that and that we are here to support you. So let's get started. Zuli is here with me. I am Dr. B, the Deputy Director of Community Engagement and Innovation here at NHSA. Prior to this, I was the Director at the Office of Head Start, and I'm just thrilled to be at NHSA to continue to support folks working in the field, particularly leaders. You all are really the ones that are the linchpin in the organization making great things happen. Zuli, you want to do a quick introduction?
Yes, hi everyone. I'm Sully Vasquez. I'm the Senior Manager of Online Professional Development here at NHSA. Prior to that, I was out in the field, many years of experience with Head Start and Early Head Start in different roles. So very excited to be here and be part of this webinar with you. So let's go ahead and get started. Our goal today is simple but crucial to provide you with practical tips that will help you navigate your first few months as a leader in your Head Start, Early Head Start program. We know that starting a new leadership role can be both exciting and challenging, so we're here to support you every step of the way. So what we hope is that by the end of this short yet informational session, you'll have a clear understanding of key actions for success during your first few months in your leadership role. We also explore the important distinction between management and leadership, and we'll have a fun activity to do towards the end of the webinar about this. This insight will be invaluable as you shape your approach to your new position. So before we dive in, we'd like to set the tone for our session with some invitations for learning. First, we encourage you to collaborate and share your wisdom and share anything that you find helpful from this webinar with your staff. Many of you bring unique experiences to the table and we can all learn from each other. Next, we invite you to apply what you learned today to your own context. Every Head Start program is unique, you know that. So think about those strategies that can be adapted to your specific situation. We also want to encourage you to be vulnerable and lean into your own discomfort. Don't hesitate to ask questions because chances are, if you're wondering about something, others are too. Lastly, let's all give grace to ourselves and to others. Leadership is a journey, and we're all learning and growing together. Enjoy the session. Now, let's get into the meat of our presentation, shall we? Key action for success. We'll cover several critical areas that will help you hit the ground running in your new role. So first and foremost, take time to understand your program's culture. Every Head Start, as I mentioned, has its own unique atmosphere, traditions, way of doing things. This might look different to you depending on whether you've been part of the program for years in different roles or you're new to Head Start in a leadership role. In any of those cases, still the basics apply because you need to look at the program with fresh eyes. So you need to observe, ask questions, and listen to your staff and families. And I'm talking about active listening. So important. This understanding will be crucial as you begin to implement changes or new initiatives in your role. Next, build a strong, positive relationship with the key stakeholders. This includes your staff, family, community partners, and the policy council. Strong relationships are the foundation of effective leadership in Head Start. And speaking of communication, communication we know is key in any leadership role, you know that. And there's always ways to improve our communication, but it's especially important when you're new. Establish clear, open lines of communication with your team. Be transparent about your vision and goals and make sure to establish trust and create psychological safety for your staff. Two critical aspects of leadership. As a leader, you must create an environment where your team feels safe, expressing ideas, taking risks, and even making mistakes. One way to do this is by implementing an open door policy. Encourage them to come to you with ideas, concerns, or questions. This openness fosters trust and shows that you value their input. When your team trusts you, they're more likely to be engaged, innovate, and committed to the program success. Another crucial aspect of leadership, and I'll talk about this briefly, is emotional intelligence, which encompasses a range of soft skills that are vital for effective leadership. Here I put some examples, but there are many others, and all of them are important in leadership roles. Being aware of and managing your own emotions, as well as being attuned to the emotions of others. I invite you to intentionally and purposefully practice active listening, showing empathy and being adaptable to different situations and personalities. As a leader, you'll often face complex challenges, right? So develop your problem solving and decision making skills is essential. Another one that I will highlight today is to work on your ability to inspire and motivate others. If you are anything like me, your enthusiasm and passion for the Head Start mission can be contagious. So share your vision, celebrate successes, big and small, and always acknowledge the hard work of your team. Dr. B is a rock star on this. One of the most important things that you can do in your first few months is to conduct what I call a program pulse check. This is essentially diagnosing your Head Start reality. Take time to assess the current state of your program, and this will look different again for each one of you. You've probably been with Head Start for several years, but it's your first time in a leadership role outside of the classroom, or you're new to Head Start and leadership roles. Whatever the case may be, ask yourself questions such as, what's working well? What areas need improvement? This assessment will guide your priorities and action plans moving forward. And speaking of plans, anyone knows what these numbers mean? Anyone? Don't be shy. Quiet. Okay. This means 30, 60, 90 day plan. This structured approach will help you focus on what's more important in your first 3 months. In your first 30 days, focus on learning and relationship building. We just discussed this piece. The next 30 days might involve deeper analysis and starting to formulate strategies. By 90 days, you should be ready to start implementing some initial changes of improvements. So part of this will be, of course, to look at or familiarize yourself with these tools, which is the Head Start Manager System Wheel, and there is an excellent resource on eClick about the annual planning calendar. If you're not familiar with eClick, I highly recommend it. It stands for Early Childhood Learning and Knowledge Center website. So there you have the QR code. Please make sure that you scan them. If you don't have the chance, I can put it in the chat later. Finally, remember to set clear priorities. As a leader, you'll be pulled in many directions. By establishing communicating your priorities, you'll be able to focus your energy and resources where they're needed most. Start by aligning your priorities with your program's goals and mission, focusing on high impact areas that will significantly benefit children and families. Identify both immediate needs and long-term objectives, ensuring you strike a balance between addressing urgent matters and working towards broader program improvements. And that could be sometimes really tough because at the very beginning, everything is important, matters, right? But again, communicate clear expectations to your team is important. Be prepared to reassess and adjust your priorities as you learn more about your program and as a new challenges or opportunities arise. Remember to use program data and feedback from staff and families to inform your decision-making process. By setting and maintaining clear priorities, you'll be able to focus your energy and resources where they're most needed, driving positive outcomes for your Head Start Early Head Start program. Your first few months as a Head Start leader are, as you know, a critical time. By focusing on understanding your program, building relationships, communicating effectively, and setting clear priorities, you'll be well on your way to success. So remember, again, leadership is a journey. So you're constantly evolving. Embrace the learning process, stay open to feedback, and don't hesitate to reach out for support when you need it. You don't need to know it all. You have a team, so please rely on them. All right, so I know we're going quickly, but we have another activity and I pass it on to Dr. B.
All right. Before we get into this slide, I want to just address a couple of you put onboarding underneath questions. I'm assuming the question is, what do you mean by onboarding, or how do we do this? I want to go back to the top of our webinar and remind you that we put this together with two particular audiences in mind because we weren't really sure who was going to respond to that call. You might be a brand new leader yourself, or you might have new leaders underneath you or in your program. Both need attention here. A new leader might be a brand new hire last week. A new leader might be somebody who's been around for a year or two. You're still new. Head Start takes a while to really adapt, and especially because of all of the regulations that are particular to Head Start. The purpose of this webinar today, really, in 30 minutes, what are we going to accomplish with you? What I really hope we do is just unleash your curiosity. There is so much to think about when it comes to leadership. If you have stepped into this role and are excited about the potential and want to really cultivate yourself, that's going to require intentional work on your part. I love what Zuli said about being purposeful in that process, a lot of thinking. And what we're providing for you here today are some key things in the first year, the first 6 months, the first 3 months that you're going to want to be thinking about. But each one of the things Zuli just went through requires deeper dive, right? And then I'm going to go through something here with you. And again, this can be an activity that requires more than 15 minutes of thought, of course. In fact, when we were planning this webinar, we had twice the amount of content, and I said it was too much. We're going too fast. So we're actually going slower than we planned. But the reason is because leadership is complex and it requires some real thinking. So let's pivot to this slide. This is one of my favorite things to talk about in our leadership courses, because in Head Start, most folks who end up in a leadership role started somewhere else in the organization. I should have put a poll in here. I'm going to guess that describes many of you in my audience today, that you started maybe as a parent and you went and became an aide and a teacher, or maybe you started as a teacher and then you became a lead teacher or an ed manager, and then you stepped into a leadership role. Very common pathway for Head Start, which is wonderful. Helps you to understand the organization, a real hands-on understanding of what you do. However, what ends up happening sometimes is we fail to stop and give our leadership formal training, because there are some real leadership tenets that exist that you don't learn from on-the-job training. You learn it from sitting down and working with your peers and digging into leadership theory. So we're going to start with this one today. It's all about being a leader versus a manager. And this gives you some definition behind that. Leaders are people who are those who focus on people. They're visionaries, they're idea people, they're asking why, looking at strategy, and they really are working to influence others. The last thing Zuli said is rely on your team. Leaders are great delegators. Managers or management is task oriented. It's executing what's been set as a vision. It's implementing change. It's making plans. It's monitoring to make sure things get done. Those kinds of things. So what I want to do now is share with you a link to a Padlet that we are going to do together. We're going to experiment here a little bit and see if this works in this webinar format. So Julie, if you will click on the Padlet, and Courtney, if you could put the Padlet link in the chat, which I see it there, all you all have to do is click on the link in the chat, and you're going to pull up this screen here. This little plus sign over here is going to give you a little piece of Post-it paper if you've not used this before, and just you're going to get a chance to answer the question. And this is all I want you to do. You might fill out 3 or 4 of these. Give me some things you do all day long. What are some things that are part of your day in your role? Put out fires. I love that one. I'm gonna talk about that in a minute. That is part of your role, whether you are a director, a site leader, a manager, a lead teacher, head of facilities, whatever you're doing. All right, let's just start doing this. Now, I'm going to go into the Padlet while you're working, and I am going to make a little change here while you're working. And I'm going to edit this. And now we're going to look at the Padlet like this. And we're going to start to look at all these things you've got listed here. We won't go through all of them probably, but let's just start to think about what it means to be a manager versus a leader. And this is not about better or worse. It's also not about, are you a leader or a manager? Because really both are very important. So we'll get into that in a minute. But let's just think about the practical application here. I'm going to say putting out fires because that's actually a really good one. I'll talk about that in a minute. Bathroom breaks. So I would love clarity on that. Like, is a bathroom break something you are giving someone? So if you're actually going around and giving people breaks so that they can go to the bathroom, do we think that's management or do we think that's leadership? I'm going to guess that that is management because that's about operations. Meetings. This is an interesting one. Are you planning the meetings and leading them? Are you creating vision around them? I'm going to assume this is planning a meeting. I'm going to make some assumptions here so that we can address these. That would fall under management. Monitoring classrooms, falling under management, unless you're doing that for the purpose of creating bigger visionary strategy. Going to meetings would be management. Answering questions, we'll leave it under management, but it depends what the question is. Touching base with your staff. I think it depends what this looks like. I think if you're meeting with staff to get a pulse check on how they're doing, what are they thinking about, what are their pain points, I would move this, where's touching base with staff, over to leadership, because I think good leadership ensures that it's in touch with its staff. And that's less of a management thing than a leader thing. Approving time, I'm leaving that under management. That's a management thing. Ordering materials, that's management. Completing reports is management. Encouraging staff to continue their education, I'm moving that over here. That is building capacity. When you encourage your staff to grow, that is a capacity builder. That's a leadership move. Email, meetings, supporting classrooms, I'm leaving over here because I'm assuming that means being an extra body in the classroom. Onboarding and offboarding. This really could fall in either category because it depends what you're doing, but I'm going to move it over here for the purpose of today because the thinking behind this, how are you planning it? When does it start? What is your purpose? And what are you getting out of it? That's leadership. When you think about this as a big overarching thing for your organization or your department, that is going to be a leadership move. Supporting questions, approving agendas, monitoring, talk meetings. we might need to talk about that. Working directly with families is still a management piece. There's a part of this that could move to leadership. Creating culture over here. Anything touching culture is going to be leadership. Crisis management is management. Crisis planning and a bigger vision for how to deal with crises is leadership. So I'm going to leave it there, but you can see the difference. Perspective taking, I'm putting that in leadership. If you are working on perspective taking and understanding people's perspectives, That is a leadership move. Planning. Again, you can see how management is going to own a lot of these things. Creating steps to achieve the vision is a management move. The vision itself is leadership. Coaching, generally management, but coaches, let me tell you, you've got a big leadership role too. And anytime your coaching involves creating vision and future, that's going to fall over here under leadership. Center operations is management. Listening to staff, I'm going to move it over here, because if you're listening for the purpose of creating empathy and an open environment and a safe environment, that's leadership. So hopefully you're starting to see checking ratios is management. Communication, this is the act of the communication itself is management, but coming up with communication plans is going to be leadership. Now I want to go we've got a bunch of people who put things over here. I want to see how many of these stay in leadership. Casting a vision, definitely. Ursi is going to be over in management. Creating policies and procedures. This is tough. Creating those, probably a leadership role. I'm going to leave it there. Encouraging staff. Anything with that encouragement is a leadership move. School readiness planning. It depends. That could be a gray area. I'll leave it there, but it depends on whether we're just talking about the dates and the agenda, or are we talking about what it means to send our children into school prepared for their next step, meaning you're communicating with the school, you're creating a vision for that bridge and that kind of thing. That's a leadership move. Working with your team, depends. Again, what does that look like? Building on staff strength, that's leadership. Building trainings for staff, again, depends on what part you're talking about. Agendas, curriculum, that's going to be more management, but thinking about what your staff needs and making sure they have those things met, those leads met, that's going to be in leadership. Leading by example is 100% leadership. Record keeping and reporting is going to be management. Mental wellness for staff. I think thinking about the mental wellness of your staff and the physical wellness and the general wellness of your staff, and then the actions to respond to that. I was at a program this week in California, and staff wellness was very much a priority for the leadership. That was a leadership move. Ordering massage chairs for every center, the ordering of those chairs was management, but making that decision, that was a leadership move. Brainstorming solutions is going to be leadership. Networking with community partners, excellent, that's leadership. Staff professional and personal developmental goals, the process of doing that is going to be management. But here's the thing, when you work with goal setting, how you set that up and the messaging behind it is going to live in leadership. So you can see how these kind of straddle sometimes. Forecasting for the organization, probably a leadership visionary kind of step. Looking for efficiency is management. Those kinds of logistics, that's going to be management. Collecting data is management. Team meetings, agendas is always going to be management. Monitoring, I saw that on here, is that process of monitoring is management. But when you think about the purpose of monitoring, you get into leadership. So you can see how the jobs that you all have are immense. So many things that go into what you do. What I want you to really start thinking about is how much of your time is spent in the management space and how much of it is spent in the leadership space. And Zuli, you could stop sharing my screen for just a minute so I can see people. That would be great. And what I want you to start thinking about it in your role as a Head Start leader, or if your title is manager, it doesn't matter. Those are all leadership oriented positions. Is where do you have opportunity to become more of a leader or more of a balance between leadership and management? You're not going to get rid of the management piece altogether, and that isn't the goal. But sometimes in Head Start, because we are so compliance driven, we can get wrapped up in the management and the logistics and the compliance piece of things. And we lose sight of the fact that setting a vision and empowering people and delegation and trust and culture building are all part of leadership. And without those things, if you're just left with the compliance and the checkbox, your program is probably going to struggle, and your staff are going to struggle because they're not going to feel that sense of empowerment that comes directly from the top down. The thing I want to end with on this, I want to go back to that very first comment. Whoever putting out fires in there, thank you for that setup. There is a wonderful book that I read many years ago that generally is about K-12. It's not going to help you with your job, the book itself, but the introduction was fantastic. And it talked about leaders who see themselves as firefighters. And I just want you to know, I used to call myself a firefighter in public because that's how I saw myself. I showed up every day and I put out fires. And what he purports is when you see yourself as a firefighter, then your job will focus around only putting out fires because there are always fires to put out. But until you slow down and start to see yourself as someone bigger than the first responder, in other words, creating the environment where the fires don't happen to begin with, that is where you start to step into leadership. So this is a really big reflective moment for you. And doing this in 15 minutes is really hard. But like I said, our purpose today behind this webinar, and Julie, you can share slides because I know we're going to talk about this as we close up, is to get you thinking about yourself as a leader. Who are you today and who do you want to be tomorrow? And the only way to really move yourself forward is to continually immerse yourself in new learning and surround yourself with people doing work like you are doing and learn from them. And you can do that with us. We have a variety of credentials that we offer. I think our site leader credential for the fall is full, but we do have a spring semester. If you are interested, we do both of these in fall and spring, all three of these courses. The director credential is geared more toward the director and the executive director of an organization. The site leader is what I call site manager, center director. It's got different names in different programs, but I think of this very similarly to a school principal. That person who's in the building, who's really responsible for everything that's going on every single day. Of all of the leadership positions in a Head Start program, this is the one that has the most opportunity to affect change at the site level. So for those of you who are in director positions and you oversee site leaders, or if you're someone in a leadership position, these people getting formal training is vital to your organization. They're going to impact a lot on the ground. Your management that are leading teams of family service, health service, education, these are people that have to understand the process of leadership, not just the process of family engagement, for example, or health. And sometimes we fail to treat our managers like leaders, and I think we can get more out of them when we start to do that. So you're welcome to, thank you, Katie. You're welcome to, we're going to share these slides with you. These QR codes you may not get right now. We'll give you the links. But also, if you're looking at other programs, we are not the only ones to teach leadership, and I'm just here to try to encourage you to continue to grow yourself. The next slide is about upcoming opportunities here at NHSA. So we have an events calendar here. This is all free stuff. This is like this webinar. We have lots of webinars where we try to give you information on current things that are happening. We've done things specific to early Head Start, all kinds of things. So check this out. We're constantly have my ear to the ground trying to think, what do people need? And we try to push that out. We've, of course, got our conferences, our leadership institutes, which are in the fall and winter. When you sign up for the director credential, this is free to you. So we include this in the director credential because we think it's so important that directors are attending these leadership institutes. They're really vital to your job. And then, of course, we've got our big conferences, like our parent conference that's coming up, and we have our national conference in May. And there are other organizations that have conferences too. Conferences are another great way to grow yourself. We just want to make sure that you're aware of what we're doing here. And I think our last slide, does our last slide have my contact information? If it doesn't, I'll make sure you have it. I am here at NHSA to serve you. And I want to make sure that you know that. My email is open to everybody. I give it to everybody who wants it. Feel free to email me if you have questions. If you have interest in things and you're just really not sure, I'm happy to work with you. If you need support in your program to try to figure out how your needs can be met. Sometimes budgeting is an issue. Talk to me about it. In fact, I think you're going to get an email after we finish this webinar. It'll have all these slides in it. And I think I have a special offer for you guys too, because I know budgets are really tight. And so we're going to try to help make some of these classes a little more available to you. I'm out of time. I knew this was going to be so short. You see, I'm out of breath, and we even cut half of our content. So I'm very happy we did that. I hope that you are taking a party favor with you today. I always like a party favor at a webinar. Too short. I agree, Tanya. We need to do this again. Stay tuned. We'll do another one. But here's what I want you to take with you: reflection. We talked about a lot of things today, but at the end of the day, it is about you reflecting on who you are as a person, who you want to be as a leader. And then once you define that, go get it. And you don't go get it by just thinking it. You have to take some action. So please get out there, find opportunity to connect with other professionals to deepen your sense of understanding about the science behind leadership, but also the art and the reflection about finding out who you are and who you can be here at Head Start. And just remember, Head Start is access to the American dream. Go make dreams happen. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye.